Hello and welcome to the Mysticast, where you join Jack Stafford and Deborah Littleboy, members of the Aetherius Society, as we break down the barriers between religion, science, metaphysics, philosophy, and mysticism, all of which are really only aspects of the self-same quest for truth. Please note, this is an independent program, not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today, our guest is Carmen Turner Scott. Hello, Carmen.
Hi.
Did I say your name right? Scott or Shot?
It's either one's fine. Carmen Turner Shot. Yeah, I think my husband would say the other way, but I always say Shot.
That's great. And we have a mutual friend in Chrissy Blaze.
Yes. It's a small world. So yes, I met Chrissy a long time ago, back in 2012, when I used to have a magazine called the Rising Magazine, and she was one of my columnists. She was one of my columnists and would submit articles and things. And that's how I met her. And I think I met her through an online article thing that we have both been doing and everything. So when you mentioned her, I'm like, oh, I know her. Yes. And she has lots of books out there, and a writer as well. So it's been a long time since I've spoken to her, but definitely, yes.
And we're going to have a wide-ranging conversation today about exploring uncommon connections, spaceships, 12 tribes of Israel, and horoscopes, of course. Well, where to begin? That's a lot to cram in 50 minutes.
Yes. Wow. So it's interesting, because when I first started studying astrology, it really was to try to explain, why I had these mystical, unexplained experiences. I would dream things that would happen. I was very intuitive, very sensitive to energy. And I just kind of born believing in a lot of these things, but I was not, raised to believe in these things. I was born in the Midwest in the United States. And I was just different than anyone in my family and from a young age. And so when I started getting into astrology and learning it, it really validated my experiences. And then I started, doing research and all kinds of things, astrology in the Bible, the 12 sons of Jacob, their personality traits were similar to the 12 signs of the Zodiac, and all these connections, these secret teachings. I was really, interested in all those things. So I've read a lot of things. I started when I was 16, really started doing consultations at 19. And it's been my passion ever since. I'm a licensed social worker and a counselor in my normal life and work a lot with trauma survivors and have worked with children and teens. And I always had brought in spirituality into what I do. And astrology is a tool of self-awareness. So I believe it's energy and it's accurate, and it can really help people tap into their strengths and to overcome things and become more resilient. And so that's my passion. So I'd love to talk about it. I'm glad you invited me to the show.
Yeah, that's great, because our audience is primarily members and sympathizers of the Aetherius Society. So we'd like to draw the connections between the teachings of Dr. King and the Masters. Nice. And so when Deborah sent you the information, and also have you spoken to Chrissy about it? What is your impression of the society?
I thought it was really amazing. I mean, I haven't talked to Chrissy about it, but everything that you sent me, I believe in. I mean, I resonate with all of it. I didn't know about you guys. So I'm like, oh, this is exactly, kind of on my wavelength and what I've already kind of believed, a lot of these things, and had experiences in these things. And in my research with other people that have these abilities and these experiences and this, knowledge or knowing about things, I think a lot of people resonate, and they don't even know that, you guys exist probably, but they probably would be interested for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Deborah is our researcher here, Deborah Littleboy, and she found your work very interesting as well.
Thank you. I
always like to introduce Deborah. That she get upset if I don't introduce her early in the show there.
I'm the ogre. Suddenly.
The yin to my yang.
That's the personality trait I've taken on. Yeah.
Are you the yang or the yin?
Well, it depends whether I'm in my earth sign or
I have to bring her in or she'll interrupt me.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. We've been through a lot of very powerful astrological energy that's been going on this week with the blue moon and the full moon in Pisces, and then several retrograde planets are
there's so much going
really,
wrong. Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's affecting everyone. I've had so many people reach out to me, that are, open-minded, they don't really know astrology, but they know that I do it and I love it. And they're like, Carmen, what is going on? I'm very emotional and I'm crying. I'm thinking about the past. And I said, yes, I said, this is the retrogrades of the full moon. I was looking, I made little notes here. It's amazing. We have Mercury retrograde, which is planet of communication. Venus has been retrograde for a while, the planet of love and relationships. Now it goes direct on the 3rd of September. But then we have Saturn, Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all in retrograde right now. This is a big
Oh
thing.
my God, what a shit show.
I know, it's a shit show. And then we have Jupiter going retrograde September 4th. Jupiter joins them.
Well, when this podcast comes out in October, it'll
Yes.
all be calm waters, no? Well,
It'll be easier, yes, because
Okay.
there'll still be a few retrograde planets, but not like this. Mercury will be direct, Venus will be direct, and a few others. But those outer planets are going to be retrograde, affecting us. And what it does is retrograde planets force you to turn inward, and they kind of block energy from flowing naturally. So people can feel a little bit more stuck or stagnant, maybe a little heavy, more of a heavier energy. And you just gotta, I recommend walking, exercise, getting outdoors, getting fresh air, just getting your mind off it and being, walking, moving your body, meditating, doing grounding exercises to help your energy can really help people during these retrogrades, because this is a very intense time.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on astrology, but what my takeaway is that there's no such thing as bad planetary energy. You just got to react differently. You got to change your
Yes.
activities. You've got to take the time to not get
Yes.
frustrated, not
Yeah.
throw the computer out the window.
Yeah, exactly. It's so interesting because Mercury, most people know Mercury retrograde because it does affect everyone. And even if you don't realize that it's astrology and it's energy affecting you of the planet of communication, as soon as it went retrograde, like a couple days before, I had all kinds of things happening and things that you can't make up. And what it does is it brings things back from the past for you to have to address. And it was like clockwork. As soon as it happened, I had two things at work came up that had been going on during the last retrograde, in the winter. And they just came right back, and miscommunication, emails were being sent, people were getting upset. And I'm like, oh, this is the same thing.
Deborah would say she's always in retrograde.
Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh. So, so I'm really cautious and try to make sure I communicate very, very clearly. And I even said, okay, I said, there's a miscommunication here. I want to make sure I'm asking, can you answer this question? It was like this back and forth and no one would answer the question. And I'm like, this is so Mercury retrograde. I'm just like, this is, yes. And I'm a Virgo. So Mercury's the ruler of my sign. So I have a lot of Virgo energy in my chart, not just a Virgo rising, Virgo sun, Virgo Mercury, Virgo Venus. So whenever there's a Mercury retrograde, I feel it. It definitely impacts me greatly in my life. And so I just laugh, because it's just things you have to deal with and address. And it makes you be more aware of your communication and to be a little cautious and wait till it goes direct to say or start anything new, finish old projects and get things done. It gives us that energy to do that, finish that book you've been writing, that article, or cleaning your house or your closet out, those kind of things. So that's kind of what we've been going through end of August through September, the month of September. So that's probably, now that if this airs in October, people are going to start, they'll be feeling a lot better and communication will be a lot easier.
Okay. You also do a lot of healing as well. So that's, isn't it now a good time for healing?
Yeah, healing's always important. I feel like when planets are retrograde, they do bring up all of the things inside that, maybe that you thought you healed and you may have healed. I work a lot with trauma survivors and healing. And so one thing is you can really have healed something and a memory or a song or smell or emotion or an energy will bring it up again. But the difference is you don't have the same physical, emotional, spiritual reaction to it because you have healed it. So I always tell people, don't be so hard on yourselves. It's okay if you have a memory. or you're reminiscing, nostalgic, thinking about the past, because that's what happens with these retrograde energies, and with astrology, where the moon is. The cycles of the moon each month affect us emotionally. So I always tell people, pay attention to that, and just, do self-care, and just let it go. If things come up, release them, and cleanse that energy out. I'm a Reiki master, so I do Reiki. I've been trained in pranic healing. But I do believe in energy work, and that it can really help people heal deep things and balance out our energy field. I do believe we have an aura, and that we're a soul, and that we have these different energy bodies. I do believe that. And I believe, there's healing on all very deeper levels that happen, that can take some time,
Mm.
So they're like echoes. Am I hearing that correctly? So what you're saying, these are, so in retrograde, we have like a do-over, and we get to experience it again, but without the sting. So
Yes,
we
that's
can,
it.
so it's like an echo of the actual,
I like
to
that.
allow us to understand it
Yes.
in more of a logical and an open way. Because when you're writing, when it's really hurting, you're not really, it's too difficult, isn't it? Sometimes maybe. I
Yes.
just,
It's too
that's
raw.
the way
And
I like to think of it.
I like that. Yeah, echoes. I like that. Yeah, like ripples, echoes. Yeah, I like that. I like how you associate that. Definitely, definitely. I mean, it happens to me all the time. Things that, like, wow, why am I thinking of that? Or, and it often comes through our dreams too. I'm very interested in dream interpretation and dream work, and very connected to dreams. So, when these planets went retrograde, I was dreaming of old relationships, people from the past that had, maybe had hurt me, or, people that I had forgiven. And I'm like, I'm over that. Why am I dreaming about these people? Right. And it's because it's those echoes, those memories, because our body holds on to all of our memories, all of our positive memories, all of the things we've healed. And it doesn't mean you're not okay and that you haven't forgiven. It just means that there's a memory, an echo there. It's still in our mind, in our energy field. And it's just even a message sometimes, I think, to see how far you've come, and remind you, look how much I've grown, look how much I've healed, and reminisce, wow, I remember I wasn't good, 5, 10 years ago when this happened, but now I'm okay, and so sometimes I think our dreams are messages just to have us think about things again, and that's what these retrogrades do. It's like just to, hash out and think about the past a little bit, and what did I learn from that, and those are all very common feelings right now with these retrograde planets, especially Pluto and Neptune. Pluto rules healing, and atomic power, and transformation, and rebirth, and all of these very death, and all of these very deep energies, transformative energy. And it's retrograde, which means it's turned inward right now. So a lot of people are really trying to heal, and pay attention. Things are coming up, bubbling up, so to speak, like you said. It's like a pot that kind of boils, simmers, and then it kind of boils over, and you're like, oh, and then we're being forced to feel very deep, intense emotions. And people that study astrology and these spiritual tools, we have an awareness of these things, but a lot of people that don't know about these things, I feel like they're reaching out, and they're struggling right now because they don't really understand what's going on. And so I try to help them. I'm like, they may not understand astrology, but I'll say, listen, this is what's going on. And I'll look at their chart, and I'm like, wow, you got a transit, through your home and family house, or your marriage house, or your health house, right? And I'll try to help them see that, these are the patterns and energies affecting you, because your soul chose to be born when it was, to go through these lessons, right? And so that gives them peace. And I just validate what they feel. And that's what I try to do, is to use astrology as a healing tool. Not predicting the future and trying to get them to be, any fear at all. I use it as a tool to help people heal, and adapt, and use their strengths, because every sun sign, our moon sign as well, gives us certain strengths to overcome life challenges. And everyone has a different way of overcoming hardship or loss or seeking, their oneness with God and their spiritual path. So we all have like a different way that we're going to the where we're going, and no one's paths are always going to look alike. And so I tell people, I was just telling someone the other day, they're like, well, I want to be enlightened. How do I awaken and be enlightened? And I want to do this and that. And I don't know if we're all meant to do that. Everyone, our soul is here for a reason and a destiny. And whatever we're meant to learn, we're meant to learn. And I think sometimes, people try to force things. And I think you got to it's timing and applying these things. You can study all these things. And I've been studying these things since I was 16. And I know that, and I went to the School of Metaphysics for 3 years and learned about healing and all the masters and all these things when I was 19 to 23. And I realized, I have to apply these things. The law of manifestation, the law of believing and knowing, all of these things. And you have to apply these tools to see the benefit, and live it. You have to really live this stuff, and I know you can't just have the knowledge. You can have the knowledge and teach it, but to see the benefit, you have to apply it. And that can be hard, applying these things takes discipline and I have to be disciplined too. And I have to remember, I got to think positive. I can't, get into the negative thinking. I need to shift my thoughts. I need to shift my emotions. And because the only thing you can control is yourself and your reactions and your thoughts. And I tell people that because some people will come to me and they feel like they're a victim. And I'll tell you, you're not a victim. You're powerful. You're strong. These things happen to you, but you can heal them. And so that's what, a lot of my research was about the 8th and 12th houses in astrology, which I call 12th house people angels and 8th house people phoenixes, because that energy, those symbols really resonate with their life mission. And so this book I wrote recently, Phoenixes Angels, was really to help people that had these unexplained spiritual abilities. And they felt alone. They felt alien. They felt like they're not from Earth. They feel lost, like they don't have support. And they never really had anyone encourage them, to tell them, hey, you're intuitive. You need to listen to your gut instinct. Or, hey, you have a gift of you dream about the future. This is something that, God blessed you with. And so instead of hiding it or not trusting themselves. And so I started researching this, and I've been doing it. I've been researching these houses for about almost 30 years now. And everything in my book is my own experiences or clients' experiences. And my goal is to make astrology basic so everybody can understand it. Because it's a very...
Before I miss my thread on this, when you were saying that we've got to understanding that we come from a higher, this is my words, not yours, from a higher place. I don't belong here. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take you to your UFO connection with the Bible, and of course the fact that we are now getting the evidence, the nuts and bolts evidence, or at least there's a conversations happening here. So that's not really very much of a question. So let's try and frame this properly. When did you make the connection between UFOs and the biblical stories? Let's start with that as as a number one.
He's very good at tying these things together.
Yeah, this is really great. So what happened was in 1995, I saw a UFO. But even before that, I will share this with you. I always knew about UFOs. I always would lay in bed at night, and I know this sounds crazy. I would be afraid of being taken. And I remember going and waking my mother up and say, I don't want to be taken. I feel like there's people in my room. I was I had to have a nightlight on. I had to have the door open. I don't remember being little. Okay. I don't remember a lot, but I know in 1990, I always kind of knew. And I read Communion by British. I always was reading these books about the pyramids and aliens and UFOs. I've always was born this way, and I'm a 12th house person. So I'm also O negative. I'm RH negative. So I've researched all that too. But I definitely was open-minded. And I remember saying, if I see it, I'll believe it. And in 1995, I was driving with a friend of mine. I had a witness, and off I-44 in Missouri, and clear sky, full moon, beautiful night. Pulled off the side, and we were talking, and I was looking in the rearview mirror. I looked again, and it was like the whole sky opened up yellow, and there was a saucer-shaped yellow light hanging across the entire skyline. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? And I pull out, I get out, I stand and watch this. I'm underneath it watching it, and the other cars pulled off. And before our eyes, it's like it shrunk and a dot, gone, like within a matter of seconds. And after that, I got really interested in the research of, because I majored in religion and philosophy and psychology, but I loved studying these things in the Bible. And I saw these connections in these astrological symbols. But, some of the stories, like the Immaculate Conception. Okay, the angel came to Mary. These angels, who were they? Were they angels? Were they aliens? I've always been open-minded. And then I would even go a step further, the abilities that Jesus had at the Sermon on the Mount, when they said he came out of the sky in a light, just kind of walked out of the sky. Was he coming out of a ship? I mean, I've always been questioning and open-minded to these things, and I never
Star
really
of
shared.
Bethlehem,
There you go. Yes, yes, all of this, and then there was verses where I wrote a little ebook about my experiences with some of this, being an astrologer and being a Christian, being raised Christian. But when I would research, I would see, Jesus told the disciples, how do we know when you'll return? There'll be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. I'm like, why would he say that? There's something to that, right? And I'm like, I always went by what Jesus said, the New Testament. What did he actually say? And then I know there's probably hundreds, thousands of books that we have never seen that were written at that time that have knowledge. And I know they're probably in the Vatican, and they say the Vatican has the largest astrological library in the world, right? So, and I also would go through, I traveled, I lived in Europe twice, in Germany, and I traveled all over the world. And all these churches I would go in would have astrological symbols in them. Like the book of Revelation has the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. I go into Catholic churches now. There's the 4 6 signs of the zodiac, the symbols. The face of the man, the head of a lion, Leo, Aquarius, the bull, and the eagle, which is the ancient symbol Scorpio. And I'm like, okay, there's something to this. There's something to this astrology, and Jesus spoke about it. And he said, follow the man with the alabaster jar in the house he dwells. That's the age of Aquarius. That's like Aquarius symbolism.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow. And so I've loved to talk about this. I've talked about it on some shows.
You've come to the right show for this.
Yeah. I love that you guys are open. And so I've always had a belief that there's something, that there's more to it, and, people are afraid to talk about it. A lot of people are. I know what I saw. And I've always had this feeling, and I will tell you this, I got trained in QHHT, the quantum healing hypnosis technique, Dolores Cannon's technique. And I wanted to start learning about this more. And I had a session done, and I remember 3 lives. And I will tell you, one of the lives involved the extraterrestrials, the Greys. Yeah. And it was very powerful. And I wept. Like, I cried during the session. I have it on tape, and I can't hardly listen to it. It was so emotional. And so that opened my mind as well, that, wow, there's something, and that's why I've always had this connection with something. There's something about me. I don't know what it is. And that's why I'm open-minded to it. And I feel like, yeah, even if I wouldn't have seen what I saw, I've always had an openness to, there could be life on other planets.
Well, let me bring Deborah back in, because I'm sure she's bursting with another question here now.
Yes.
Well, actually, I had my ears open, and I've forgotten what my second question was to be. But what I'm now wanting to know, which is on a sideline, you said that you had seen the characters of the 12 signs in the 12 sons of
Jacob. Yes.
Jacob. Now,
And the disciples, the 12 disciples as well.
okay, so if we've got 12 archetypes, we've got basic, and they're all mixed up. So and so we're all like a little bit of that, but none of us are just the as they were.
Yeah.
So if they came in as just that, that energy, so whatever planet or constellation that energy was, if we came in pure, and then we've all got muddled up because we've all intermixed and done dreadful things to each other and muddled up all of our energy fields. If that is if that's what's happened, if that's the basis, if that's what the Bible story is the basis of, which is what I would like to believe, because it's simple, and I like simple. If that's it, then is it a case of looking at a chart and seeing what the mix is, and seeing where that is when the thing is turning around, when you're going to get the most impact on that particular strand, and then putting in a counterbalance to it? Is that how the healing? Is that how the healing works? Is that how you see it within? Is that how you see the Bible telling us that actually there is only 12 basic archetypes that we need to balance?
Yeah, I think even Carl Jung, in psychology has the 12 archetypes, but then there's a lot of theories about the 13th zodiac, that there's a 13th sign. Now, I'm not an expert on that. I know I've had people ask me. Some people believe there's the 13th sign. Some people believe Mary Magdalene was a disciple, which would be 13 archetypes, right? I've read a lot of books about that. I'm open-minded to what you're saying. And I think with healing, if you're looking at the chart and the 12 archetypes, let's just go with the 12 archetypes. The whole thing is balance. So the way I see it is, every sign, and you kind of said it before we got on, every sign has a polar opposite in the sky at all times. That is your most compatible sign. So if you're an Aquarius, for instance, in the sky, the constellation Leo always is opposing you. If you're a Virgo, Pisces is always opposing you. You have traits of both your polar opposite and your sun sign. It's a balance. So it's like a continuum, like 1, 2, and 3 on this continuum. So if you're Aquarius, you could be like a true Aquarian, or you could be in the middle and possess Aquarian and Leo traits, or you might lean more towards the Leo side of that continuum. And this is what I've just seen in my research with helping people. That and we know in astrology that each polar opposite shares the same health issues, vulnerabilities. Okay. And so that's what really piqued my interest. And I started, wow. So polar opposites, people think, oh, polar means they're not compatible. No, you're very compatible with your opposite sign, because you have some of their traits and energies within you. So you're balancing Aquarius and Leo. I'm balancing Virgo and Pisces. And I really felt more like a Pisces when I was growing up, honestly, than a Virgo. And I feel like I'm in that more middle realm, right? And so with health, and the thing is, in nature, we have the 4 elements. So, air and fire go together, earth and water go together. So polar opposites, the constellations that oppose each other out of those 12 are compatible elements. They're always, all air signs oppose fire signs, and all earth signs oppose the water signs. So it's like, it's a complete balance. And so, yes, I think that to heal, and I don't know if I wrote about it in my sun signs book in depth, because I was trying to be on a basic, but if I wrote another book, I could expand. But to heal, you really got to tap into your to both your sun sign and your polar opposite sign to heal, because it'll be complete balance. And so I tell every Virgo, you need to, read about Pisces, because you have Pisces in your soul as well. Every Aquarius has Leo in there too, that you can
balance,
tap in.
Yeah, makes
Yeah,
sense.
and it really is about balance in those energies. Just looking at the sun alone, and then we can look at the moon. The moon is a powerful thing as well. So looking at the opposite moon sign, having your whole chart, you can really see, okay, this is what you need to balance. And the thing in astrology that's the most important thing really that people really need to know is that the soul mission can be seen in the chart, in the birth chart. And what we call that is the north node. The north node of the moon, it's a calculation astrologers use based on the moon. And it's where our soul is going this lifetime. The south node, it looks like headphones. And then upside down headphones is your past lives, what you've already mastered. So what sign it's in, what house it's in, which are the areas of life, the 12 areas of life that we break the sky into, represent these different, home, family, relationships, health, all of these different things, career, travel, communication. So wherever sign the south node is in, and whatever house is what your soul's already done. So we're always very comfortable in our south node energy because it's where we feel safe. But our soul came here to have the chart we had to trigger and to awaken us to move towards that north node, which is our soul mission. We're here to master that north node. And I've seen it in my own life and in many people's lives. And by the time somebody is, 60, when they go through the second Saturn return, which the Saturn return is connected to our soul mission. So the first one happens at age 27 to 30. Everyone on earth has a Saturn return at that age. But that's the first time we're even awakened to our north node. Our soul mission isn't until age 31, really. And that's when we really start being forced to do what we came here to do. And then these opportunities arise, right? These challenges, these things happen and get us towards where we're meant to go. And if we don't willingly go, the universe will test us because it wants us to master what our soul came here to learn. And so that's when we might have challenges. And so I try to catch people early and tell them, okay, your south node is here, your north node is here, and this is where you need to focus. So I need you to read about, like, if your north node's Pisces in the 10th house of career, it means you're gonna be forced to go out into the world in the public and work. And you're meant to serve others and help them in some way, do compassionate spiritual service. So you got to get comfortable trusting your emotions and feelings because you've already been a Virgo and been an analyzer and logical and service oriented, but you were doing practical service. Now you have to do spiritual service. And so you have to learn compassion and emotions, and that emotions are okay. And so, I give them tips to get into that north node. But it's amazing because by the time someone goes to their second Saturn return, when I meet them and do their chart, they're in their soul mission by the time they're 61. They're in it. 57 to 60.
Do you find that actually, because you've mentioned 2 or 3 times about spiritual service is our soul mission. Is what you find time and time again when you get to that certain stage? Then it's all about, you've got to serve, you've got to be more spiritual, and you've got to serve your fellow man, because of course that's what society is all about. That's what the masters told us all about. All of our challenges. I think Jack could come in with me on this. Every challenge we get is because we're being selfish, because we want it our way and not the way that's actually going to help the whole, not just, and it might be a little bit selfish, like I've done that bit, but actually I want that little bit for myself, but then it still plays on the heart. And the more that you don't serve, as you know, if I serve and I do it with an open heart, I feel wonderful.
Yeah.
I feel wonderful. If I serve with half a heart, I don't feel as great because I know. So my question to you is, when you're doing these charts, is that sort of like a standard? You get to that second Saturn, and people, if they've not got there before, then they jolly well needs to get to it now.
Yeah.
Because we're all here to serve each other.
Yes, the reason we come here is because we want to help people, and we want to balance out our relationships and things that we didn't do right with people in past lives. Our soul wants to get it right. We want to heal. We want to make amends. So I believe what draws us back, which I used to always say, this is something, and I know now, I think we choose to come back, but I used to say, I don't want to come back again. I used to always say this, I don't want to come back here because I'm not from here. It's heavy and it's painful. And I used to always say this, and someone looked at me once, a psychic in this bookstore. He said, you need to be in your body. You're not in your body. He said, you're up here. And I used to, when I walked, I felt like I was floating, like I wasn't grounded. And I was like that for many, many years. Now I'm more grounded. But he said, you chose to be here. You chose to be in your body.
Your
have
higher
a body.
self shows it, yeah.
Yeah, he said,
Get on with it.
you need to be in your body and be
Get
grounded.
down and dirty.
Yeah, I'm like, dang. And so when he told me that, I was like 23 years old. And I'm like, dang. And so now I'm so different. Now I'm very grounded, and I've learned to balance the spiritual and the practical. I realize I'm meant to be practical and balance my spiritual and practical, like a foot in each world, really. And I can't just be meditating and detached from reality. That's not my chart. I'm meant to do practical service and spiritual service, both. And so, but yes, I believe that, like Jesus said, the golden rule, we're meant to love others and treat them right and help them. And
let me just pick up on something you said earlier, just to jump in for a moment. You said not everyone's here for enlightenment, but according to the New Age teaching, the 9 freedoms, the first freedoms are bravery, love, and service.
Oh, nice.
So if as you are embodying, I see you looking around for the way, you've written these 9 books, when you write a book, you look for the book that hasn't been written. You look for the teaching that needs to be given. You're here to serve. I feel that in you. And when you're embodying bravery,
I like that.
You're going against the society's traits. Love, you obviously embody that. And service, you're clearly giving that through your writing or your healing, and that alone, without any other spiritual practices, leads to enlightenment. And that's why we're all here.
Yeah, I like that. I think like I was just talking to someone on a podcast over the weekend, and they were really, this came up, and I said no, you don't have to be an ascetic and give away everything and all of these things to get a connection with God or to awaken, and I used to feel guilty. I remember when I was younger, and he's kind of in that same situation. I was trying to help him see it differently because of having a family and children and balancing that. I'm like, you chose to have a family. Your soul wanted to experience that. It's not a burden. Like, it's not something you have to, like, it's not holding you back. You got to learn to live in that moment that your soul, chose to have a family. So, like, I love what you said. Exactly. You can love and be a service every day with your children, with your spouse.
I'm not going to ask Deborah to tell her 2 Buddha stories, but basically, you can be, by going into a cave and experiencing the bliss that you talk about, is actually being quite selfish. Many of the New Age teachings are talking about how we can experience, how we can, our purpose in life is just to control the mind. If we can just be mindful all the time, F mindfulness.
I know, right?
Go out and serve, go to the bloody homeless shelter and be mindful there for a couple of hours a week. It's
exactly.
We'll go work in a prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly
there.
Yeah.
I worked in the prison for 5 years. And
Good for you.
You've got to.
Well, you get a knife in your back.
I've got to shovel some stuff there to
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
it's living the teachings, always try to live the teachings of Christ. What did Jesus say to do? Serve others, love others, and forgive. And
Yeah.
it's pretty simple, really, when you think about it. But I think you're right. There's a lot of these New Age teachings that make it like you're never going to be perfect enough to ever connect with God, or you're never going to be perfect enough because you haven't awakened all your chakras and completely, realize this is all a dream. No, because we're in the material world because our soul chose to be in the material world. We have a body for a reason. And so we're here we have to do physical things. We have to eat, we have to work, we have to pay bills. These are things that is our reality. You got to balance this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also helps to know, when you die and you go to the other realms, you go to the realm of just desserts. Each chakra is a realm of consciousness, and there you vibrate with the people, the like-minded souls. You get to hang out and do whatever you like to do. If it's a base thing, you get to do dark and dirty things. If you're you're vibrating a high level, you can do wonderful things. But here on the physical realm, we're all mixed in together, and this is our chance to be of service to those who are less fortunate.
Yes. I've always, I almost became a nun. This was a funny story. I wasn't even Catholic. I was very drawn to the Catholic faith. And I really wasn't raised to very super religious or anything. I was always just naturally interested in what Jesus taught, and I was always interested in all these things. But I started thinking maybe I'm supposed to be a nun, because I'm having all these experiences, and I'm like, no, I want to have a family someday. I want to have kids, because I love kids. And so I did research, and I almost went that route because I've always liked my solitude. I've always liked, and that's my 12th house energy. That 12th house is all about solitude and peace and connecting to the divine and meditation and having a soul connection and helping other people that have pain. And so I've always wanted to be a service and help others. And but I didn't go that route. I became a social worker instead and a counselor. But ever since I was little, I've always liked helping people. But we have to learn boundaries. And so that was a big thing for me, to learn boundaries. Because, as a healer, as a helper, we can get compassion fatigue. So I think, you got to balance and take care of you too. Because, I like the saying, if your cup is empty, you can't really fill up other people's cups. You got to fill your own cup up first. And that resonated with me because there's times where I would be go, giving, and I was depleted. And, and I also learned in life that you can't expect anyone to fill up your own cup, your cup. You got to do that yourself. And that was a hard lesson because, people expect other people to love them a certain way to make them happy. And you got to love yourself, and you got to learn to make yourself happy because no one else can do that.
No, and for me, what makes me happy, although I forget about it all the time, is when I'm helping somebody else.
Yeah, it does.
I don't like to be my brother's keeper, though. I'd rather be selfish. Helping other people gives you a good feeling, but I'd rather pursue my own.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm selfish too, Jack. As you know me well enough to know, I'm telling the truth. But it doesn't do me well not to share my Maltesers.
Mm-hmm.
It's better. I know it. It's not even in here. I feel better if I know that I've helped someone.
Yeah,
I might not want to help them to start with because it's inconvenient, but if I actually get over that hump, then it's I can know that actually that feels good.
Yeah,
the girl did good today. Yeah,
I like to it's everyone goes through their own lessons and learnings, and I think for me my biggest learning was realizing that there really isn't a soulmate, so to speak, out there. I always thought, oh, I've got a soulmate. I've got a twin flame. I was all very idealistic about relationships and love. That was one of my biggest challenges, and that's my Venus in the 12th house. And it took me a lot of hurt and a lot of, these expectations you have of people that realize, people are just, they're human and they're going to make mistakes. No one is like going to be the perfect person. And so I realized, the 12th house is known, someone told me this, anything you put before God in a spiritual path will get taken away from you. I had an astrologer tell me that when I was 19. I'm like, wow. And I realized in essence, he was kind of right. Because I had to realize that I can't focus all my attention on having a partner and love and romance and all these things. That's not why I'm here. So I had to be hurt and go through some heartache to get on my right path. And then now I realize that I got to be my own soulmate to me. I have to love myself unconditionally, because no human being is ever going to live up to the type of love that 12th house people are looking for. And this is like a pattern I've seen with thousands of people that have planets in this house. I've done videos about it. They're looking for that. They're idealistic. They see people rose-colored glasses. They expect others to love like them, and they put people up on a pedestal, and they get hurt. And then they feel, they struggle. And so I write about that in the books that I write to help them understand that they gotta love themselves and they gotta nurture themselves. And then the universe may send them a partner and someone that can be a soul, share the journey with them. But it's still, you can't expect to get your whole happiness through a relationship or from another person. And so that's kind of one of the challenges of people that have planets in the 12th house. And Pisces, people that have a lot of Pisces, they're imaginative, they're creative, they're romantic, they're compassionate, kind. They're looking for the soulmate, they're spiritual, kind of thing. And sometimes they get hurt trying to find that. It's like seeking that oneness with another person, that intimate. I mean, people want that, right? Because people get lonely. And that's the 12th house. It's the house of loneliness, of sacrifice, of solitude. And monks, nuns, priests, rabbis, a lot of them have planets there because they're meant to kind of be in the world and balance the service and the spiritual work. And then other people are meant to have a career. I look at charts. I'm like, you're not meant to kind of focus on these real mystical things. You're meant to focus on family. I just did a chart on someone a couple weeks ago. I'm like, wow, they had everything in the 4th house of home and family, but their south node was in the 12th house. So they kept telling me, I can't, I want to enlighten. I want to be, I want to be a spiritual teacher. I want to do all these things, but I have, responsibilities and my family.
In the
and
past, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, you've already studied and learned all this stuff and meditated and you chose to have a family, and you have to learn to balance. You already are spiritual. You already have these memories, these remembrances, or you wouldn't be meditating and studying, all these different religions and all these philosophies. And it's because you're open-minded. You know these things in your soul, but your sun and moon and all these planets are in your house of home and family. So you have to be a father. You chose to be a father, so I help people with focus on the strengths and try to guide them, and give them practical tips, to help them. And that's what astrology did for me. It really helped me grow as a person and know that, there's 2 things that no one can convince me of or change my mind on. Number 1, I know we're here for a reason. And number 2, I know that I'm a soul and that this is, when I die, that this is not it. And I'm absolutely positive about those 2 things. People are like, well, how do you know, Carmen? I'm like, I just know because of my experiences and because of astrology and what I've learned through my journey, and so I like to give people hope, and I have that. Like no one can convince me otherwise. And so, and it's because I've experienced these things that it's my experience. And I can't make anybody else. And I don't judge other people's experiences. I'm very open-minded. I'm like, I believe people when they share with me, and I don't think they're crazy. And I've even had, as a social worker, I don't like that in the mental health field that they often try to just put people on medication and try to, give them medication to change whatever's happening. And some things are spiritual reasons. I learned that I've helped some children that were eighth house, had a lot of eighth house planets that were, afraid of the dark. They thought they saw a man in their room, like a ghost, at the side of their bed, a spirit or whatever. And the psychologists were wanting to put this little guy, he was like 8 or 9, on medicine. And my friend asked me to help her friend. It was her son. And I went to their house in Menor and everything. And after talking to this little kid, this was many years ago, he said, I said, can you describe what this man looks like that you're seeing? Because he would draw these cemeteries and stuff too. He would draw tombstones, and they were scared. Like, why is he doing this? Because eighth house people are connected to death. That's why. Because he had because they wonder. They know that that they could die. They think about it. I remember laying in bed thinking, what if I die? I was like 5 or something. I remember thinking, where will I go? And when I remember asking my mother, where if I die? And she's like, she didn't know what to say. She'd change the subject. Oh, you're fine. Because these are taboo things no one wants to talk about. Right.
Well, there's so much more we could talk about, and there's I would direct people to your book, The Mysteries of the 8th Astrological House and the 12th house, and the compilation of phoenixes and angels.
Thank you.
And of sun signs, houses in healing, moon signs in healing. You're giving so much service to the world. You're really a wonderful beacon to us all.
Thank
And
you.
I really thank the time. People can check on your website, Carmen Turner Shot with a H.
Yes.
T.com. Is there anyone else people could follow you or?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel that I've been posting more videos on, and Facebook and Instagram. Carmen Turner Shot author, Carmen Turner Shot writer. I post a lot of my events, my books, and different articles and things. And I have a 12th house and 8th house astrology group on Facebook that you.
Is there a dating
join.
app for the 8th and 12th people?
Yes, because people have met in my groups and fell in love, and I had a girl from California move to Sweden. They were the first members of my group in 2011, and now they're married and live in Sweden together. They're still in my group. So people meet, like-minded people meet in my 12th house group, especially. It's my favorite group. I love the 8th house group too, but it's more active, the 12th house, and people are so supportive, and they're meeting each other in there. Yes.
Yeah, find your house. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's a wonderful note to end on. If people are interested to learn more about the Aetherius Society, they can go to aetherius.org. They can buy the book, The 9 Freedoms, available on Amazon and all well-respected book publishers. Thanks so much for chatting to us, Carmen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been our pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.